Good day, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I'm your host, the voice of reason. In today's episode, I'm going to continue coverage on the ongoing civil war inside of the former state of Ethiopia. The fighting continues. There is continued heavy fighting along what I would define as the southern central front. So really, if we look south along the border of Amhara and the Tigray region, this is realistically one frontal zone with two operational aspects to this front. Obviously, you have the main penetration that has occurred into the Amhara region in the southeastern sector, where the Tigrayan Defense Forces moved south, seized control of Weldia, and then has moved in a westerly direction, seizing other towns such as Nefis Micha, and are engaged in battles in the vicinity of Debre Tabor. And those operations and that fighting continues as we speak. There has been a recent counter attack by the Amhara militias. We would say that most likely it occurred in the vicinity of Wegeltina, and that force moved up from possibly this area, again, Wegeltina. Hopefully I'm saying that right. If I'm not, I apologize. Moved up from a northwesterly direction, and were able to operate within the vicinity of Gashina. And there are reports that forces of the ENDF and Amhara militias are now operating in the vicinity of Gashina, and there's ongoing fighting for the town of Gashina. Now, I've heard some other channels talk about that that the seizure of Gashina basically cuts off the attack in a westerly direction towards Debre Tabor. Well, yeah, there is a road junction, obviously, that connects Gashina as it moves west towards Debre Tabor, and then another road that moves north towards Lalibela, and I'll show you that here real quick. So here we are. We are looking at Gashina, and you can see the 22 highway, and then you can also see the other road junction here that goes north towards Lalibela. Now, if in fact these forces, and it would appear that would really be the only way for the ENDF and or the Amhara paramilitaries to have taken control of Gashina or moved into the vicinity of Gashina, and that would have occurred again from the town of Wegeltina, and they most likely pushed along this mountainous road, this rural road up north, and then came into Gashina from this direction. It is unlikely that we saw an advance, obviously, from the vicinity of Debre Tabor and pushing east along this road, along the 22 highway, because that would have brought them into engagements with the main body of the Tigrayan Defense Forces that were moving towards Debre Tabor. And that would have also caused, possibly, if in fact this force did come from the west moving east towards Gashina, Gashina, we would have also heard reports of, obviously, that you would have seen the fall of Nephis Micha and Debrec's a bit, in terms of them also taking control of that area. So that did not occur. We know the TDF is still operating in this area. We know that the TDF is still in Lalibela. We know the TDF is in control of the road from Weldia up to Gashina. So it just makes sense that the Amhara militias moved up, or the ENDF, units of the ENDF moved up into the vicinity of Gashina from this area. And I do not believe it was a very large-scale operation, more of a nuisance operation. And these forces that have moved into Gashina have really placed themselves in a precarious position. They're now facing forces, obviously, that can operate from that. The TDF has the ability to come down from central Tigray down through Lalibela. Sokoto, we know, is now under the control of the TDF and Tigrayan Defense Force allies. Okay, so you will see the TDF has the ability to move in multiple directions from central Tigray down this major roadway into Lalibela, and then coming and then possibly reattacking Gashina from the north. Obviously, the ability to attack Gashina from the west is present because the Tigrayan Defense Forces are operating in the vicinity of Debre Zabit, Nephis Micha, and have pressed all the way to Debre Tabor, where they're engaged in heavy fighting. And then obviously Weldia. So the forces that are in Gashina, I do not believe will stay in Gashina if they are operating inside the town of Gashina for any real length of time. It is not a large city by any means, but it does control the road junction there. And that would have been a nuisance raid for the TDF. And at some point, yes, the TDF will require forces to drive those forces of these Amhara militias or ENDF units, whatever the case, whatever unit that moved from most probable Wegeltena into Gashina to drive those forces out. And at some point, we'll probably then see a move in the direction of Wegeltena to secure that flank and have the ability to not have that sort of operation again occur along the Highway 22 by the Amhara militias in the ENDF. But there's, again, reports of fairly significant fighting underway in the vicinity of Debre Tabor. That town obviously is still it is in debate on who controls it. There are significant TDF forces in the vicinity of Debre Tabor, and we'll have to see how this eventually pans out. But let me switch back to my other map, and that will give you guys the ability to kind of see just what more is going on. And again, this is a map that is updated on Wikipedia by obviously their contributors to the Wikipedia site, and these mappings are done by people who are obviously fairly familiar with the conflict and try to keep it as accurate as possible. And as you can see here, we've gone back to the map, and you can see that Ouagatena has been is under the control of the ENDF, and then in all probability, the force that moved into Gashina, I would suspect, probably came Ouagatena out of the vicinity of Dese, and then moved into that region to possibly secure the vicinity of Gashina. But if we move further to the northwest, we can see that fighting continues for Debark. It would appear in the reports that I am receiving that the TDF is very, very close to, in fact, entering Debark. It sounds like it's continuing to seize key terrain features north of Debark, which are very crucial to actually seize control of. And I think quite possibly the TDF is expending quite a bit of assets in order to eventually seize control of Debark and to eventually threaten Gondar and Bahir Dar from two directions. Obviously, in the direction of Debe Tabor, and then the direction from Debark as well. But right now, this is really the one front where we're seeing most of the Tigrayan Defense Forces combat power taking place. Again, one real front with kind of two operational zones within that front. The southeastern zone can fully support each other, while the southeastern zone is having some challenges in terms of meeting the forces that are moving towards Debark. And again, this is going to be pretty crucial for the TDF to eventually merge this one front, where instead of two operational zones that are having difficulty operating together because their supply lines are obviously coming from different areas. But once these frontal zones were to merge and this becomes one continuous front, things will look a little different, and it would really be a catastrophic defeat for the Ethiopian state if that in fact eventually occurs. Hasn't occurred yet, but we'll continue to watch, and I believe that is the strategy of the TDF to eventually to merge this as one frontal zone instead of one frontal zone with kind of two operational areas. The other fronts are really inactive fronts. If we look towards the west, you could define this as the Western Front, but again, the Tigrayan Defense Forces are not putting a lot of efforts into moving into Western Tigray at this point. Again, that would create a situation where it would have the Tigrayan Defense Forces directly engaged in a fight with the Eritrean army, and I'm not sure at this point that would be a prudent decision, and it is a smart decision on the part of the TDF not to do that. That would jeopardize continued operations going on in the southern front. And again, the next front is really the Afar region. Again, not a lot of combat power that is being pressed into the Afar region. It was really designed to eliminate possible threats that were accumulating along the border of Afar and the Tigray region. And you have to understand that these threats could have very quickly moved into vital supply arteries that were centered north of Mekelle and south of Mekelle. And since those threats have been removed, as you can see, the TDF has penetrated fairly far into the Afar region, but again, not a significant amount of manpower were utilized to do that, and we're also seeing that now in the northeastern quadrant of the Afar front as well, coming out of Wukro and focused on the town of Berhale. But again, not the same sort of combat power and the same sort of assets that are being used in the southern front. And obviously in the north, this is more or less a holding front right now. There is not active heavy combat operations by the TDF focused on Eritrea at this point. And that would definitely have to wait because of the challenges that are going on currently in the southern frontal operations. But I hope that defines things a little bit more, a little better for everybody. There simply is not 6 to 10 active fronts. There's really one major front, which is the southern front. There is some action going on in this eastern front, but again, limited. And there's also some action, limited action with limited combat power going on in the Western Front, and very little activity going on in the North. But again, this right here is the main front, the Southern Front, the main penetration into the Amhara region. Have a great day, everybody.